welcome on board this live safari in the Sabi Sands of South Africa. My name's Scott and I'm teamed up again with Wium on camera. For those of you who missed out on the sunrise safari, there was some incredible interactions and sightings that we had with a pack of wild dogs. And we're busy looking for that same pack of wild dogs now. I'm not too sure where they would have gone to. Some members of the pack, about 6 adults, left this general area where we left them this morning and came to the Djuma waterhole, where some of you got to see them being chased around by buffalo and or vice versa. And thank you so much to all of you who have been giving us updates from the Djuma waterhole camera. They really do help us a lot. Anyway, I was really expecting to find the 6 adults around the Djuma waterhole to start our drive, but no luck. So now the search begins for them as well as the rest of the pack. There's about 20 of them in total, half adults, half pups. So that's the plans. Jamie is also out and about with Tebbs, and a lot of you will be very happy to know that James, Mr. Henry, is back from a few days leave. So you probably won't be seeing him this afternoon, but you will be seeing him tomorrow, and he's back safe and sound and already wonderful to have him back in camp. Mickey is directing the show with Jerry lending her a hand. And it's a blisteringly hot afternoon, 34 degrees Celsius, which is about 90-something degrees Fahrenheit. And that's why I'm surprised that the wild dogs have been so active and mobile in this incredible heat. But good for us, nothing better than animals surprising us, especially when they're doing things like moving in hot weather, which is usually what we don't expect. That we've just turned off is called Central Road. I had some tracks of those 6 adults which headed to the dam in between drives. It was quite interesting to see because they couldn't actually drink as easily as they would like to because there's so much activity there. And don't be fooled by the green foliage that you see around us. We are experiencing a drought at the moment, and a lot of the water holes are very dry, and that's why that little water hole in front of the Djuma camps is so busy at the moment. Well, as I said, this is a live safari. If you're joining for the first time, please let us know. And it's very easy, hashtag SafariLIVE on Twitter, or send us through an email at questions@wildearth.tv. And that way we can chat, answer your questions, or just get to know you guys. And like I say, nothing better than hearing that there's a first-time viewer watching the show, so please let us know. Also, please can you keep an eye on the Djuma waterhole camera, because the wild dog could pop up there at any second this afternoon. I'm guessing the 6 adults that have worked out that there's water there could well take back the rest of the pack once things cool off. Not only for a drink, but there's a multitude of game there which they can possibly try and hunt. They did have a successful morning hunting and did catch an inyala. It was a female, fully grown it looked like, but by the time we got there it was already mostly consumed. As Wium just got you a glimpse of an African harrier hawk flying off there, and they're actually nesting in this tree that's just up to our left. I'll turn the vehicle around to allow Wium, or at least try to allow Wium an easier angle. There we go, he's already onto it. And you can see a big platform of twigs up in the second fork of this torchwood tree. And it is here that these African harrier hawks are nesting this year, and interestingly enough they were nesting here last year. And I'm hoping that they're going to be a little bit more relaxed with our presence, because they tend to fly off whenever we arrive. But we'll work on them, and hopefully we'll get to see them raise yet another fledgling in the coming weeks and months. But for now, we're going to send you over to Jamie, who is at the waterhole with a multitude of game. Enjoy that scene, it's really awesome, and we'll catch up a bit later.
And a very good afternoon to you all. And just a quick update for both Tammy and Joyce. You were worried about the hippo being alive because it hasn't moved. Never fear, he is definitely alive and well. Probably a little bit hot because he can't really submerge himself. As Scott said, we're going through quite a drought. He's been displaced out of his dam somewhere along the line and had to find an alternative. I don't think this is terribly well suited for an adult male hippo. He's looking distinctly uncomfortable, but at least has deigned to share his water with the buffalo, who are also packed around here looking for some relief from the temperatures we're having. I'm not sure exactly how hot it is today, but it feels absolutely boiling. Theoretically, it is 34 degrees, which is 93 degrees Fahrenheit. I disagree. I think it's hotter. We're just helped along a little bit by what could be termed a cool breeze, but is really a bit more lukewarm. It seems... Oh, there's definitely some friction, which was bound to happen at times like these over waterhole. There's a constant supply of fresh water being pumped through. Sorry, bear with me one moment. I just want to see what all these impala are alarming at. He's staring very carefully into the distance. We need to change our direction. Sorry, we need to go figure out what those impala are barking at. It could well be the dogs, although quite often what happens is impala don't even waste energy in alarm calling at wild dogs, they just run. But I want to see they're all shouting and summing, possibly moving through the drainage line. Let's go figure it out. All looking off in this direction towards the drainage line. What have you seen, impala? You're all staring down that way. Keep your eyes peeled. That could well be the dogs. It could also be Karula. She was last seen disappearing off into the drainage line around this area. Sorry, impala. What have you seen? As we zip around, the waterhole is so busy at the moment, and we've actually got a wonderful herd of elephant on its way to us. Let's just hold on a moment. Let's get these ellies coming to drink. They're going to make their way towards us. I will go check the drainage line in one moment, but we've got a whole beautiful herd. I think including our oh my word, backwards facing tusk female. They're just over there coming towards us, and then I'll go and double check on those alarm calls. Now I know that Bonnie's been watching all afternoon and asking or marveling at the fact that so much water has disappeared. And if you can imagine that each trunk full of a large elephant holds about 12 liters of water, you can just imagine where it's all disappearing to, and then combine that with the evaporation effects of this heat and the wind, this dry wind. They're definitely going to come and join us for a drink. There's elephants everywhere at the moment, and a lot of that is because there is fresh water. As I said, that dam is pumped outside the Vuyatela Lodge, so there's nice fresh water arriving all the time. The impala have gone quiet, which makes me think it might have been a false alarm from their side. I'll keep an eye on them though. Here's our backwards facing tusk female. Hey, I got it right that time. Stop for a quick snack before heading to the dam, and we should see some interesting interaction now between the elephants and the buffalo as they head for a drink, and possibly even between the elephants and the hippo. It's something we're going to start seeing more and more as the animals sorry, I got distracted by the game drive comms. But as I said, the more this drought continues, the more we're going to see conflict between animals again and again. Here they come. Hello, Elise. Are you thirsty? This is interesting because this is a big herd of elephants. When we have seen them, they've numbered up to probably about 20, but we've only got a little split here coming racing down towards us with their famous elephant water walk that we're going to see very shortly. Hello, big girl. Hello, big girl. It's definitely our friend with the deep groove. We'll see her a bit closer in a moment. All very keen to start heading to the water. Okay, we can go and watch them now. And let's see how they interact with the buffalo around the area. I'm going to do a quick loop around them so that we don't walk behind them. It's a bit bumpy. Poor old Jigger's still got that squeak that I thought was wild dog puppies earlier this morning. Already trumpeting. Buffalo for that face full of sand. I'll stop here so we can get a full view of what's happening. You can see the elephants, they're desperately thirsty, but there's a lot of buffalo around. Enough that could actually outwill them in terms of competition for this water hole. They really are desperately thirsty though. And as always, that defensive formation with the females, the big females, slightly further forward. You can see the indecision in their faces. She's trying to lead her baby down to the water and keep an eye on all of the buffalo around her. I think it could be a fairly peaceful process. You can hear the rumbling. She's not sure. Not happy about the hippo, not happy about all the buffalo around her baby. And the little one hiding out under mom's tummy. Luckily for the elephants, there are reinforcements on their way. I mentioned that this is a big herd, and I think the rest of them are slowly making their way in this direction as well. This is the herd with all kinds of interesting looking members, including females without tusks, a female with the backwards tusk, and even one with a droopy ear. And I think the rest of them are coming now. That will definitely help see the situation play out in the elephant's favor. It might not just be the buffalo, as I said, it could be the hippo that's unsettling them. Hippos have been known to be quite aggressive and protective over the water. Oh, little one's marching forward, trying to push his weight around. And Bob, just quickly, you mentioned that you think it would be interesting to see if that hippo moves out to go forage later. And the answer is it definitely will, and quite possibly he will have disappeared by tomorrow morning back to wherever he came from. Oh, almost made it. Shift forward ever so slightly so we can see the eddies drinking. That's their favorite patch, where the water comes out. Now, they're all drinking around this pan. Vanessa, you want to know if they're drinking around this hippo that's in the pan that is pumped. Yes, they are. That hippo's found refuge there. And the elephants are notorious as well for showing a preference for fresh water. So that's where they are. And it wouldn't be unheard of for the hippo to charge them at the very least. Hippos can be quite grumpy and protective, especially in areas where they've got very limited water, but I think this one feels comfortable enough to let them come, or at least outnumbered. Enough that he's not going to initiate any kind of charge. There's even competition amongst the elephants now. That's what that was all about. Defensively showing the buffalo not to come any closer as well. This is quite a sad scene in its own right, because things are going to get more and more desperate and stressful for these animals. Those magical trunks of theirs sifting through to find the best water options. I almost wish they'd come over here and share some of that muddy water. It looks cool. Although that being said, the buffalo have spent the entire day in there, and so has the hippo. So maybe I'm not that keen on the whole idea. The elephants are definitely having a wonderful time now. Adding an extra layer of sand to the coating of mud they've just given themselves. See it blowing around. He's reaching down to get trunkfuls of sand and chuck it over her back. And I'm sure you can hear the wind howling, and you can see the evidence as the dust is blowing. We really could use some rain at this point. And always with the littlest ones, away from that hippo threat. He's looking totally peaceful. He doesn't look like he's gonna do anything. Resigned to the fact that being in this tiny little pad means he's gonna have to share. If you're wondering what birds are chirping up above us, it's the brown-headed parrots mostly, making a lot of noise. We've got a very peaceful waterhole scene here now. Everything's relaxed and the elephants are all had their access to the water that they want. But I believe that Scott has a very special surprise at the different waterhole. So let's pop across to him for now.
Welcome to Buffleshoek Dam, and we've got lucky. We found some tracks of the pack heading straight here, and I think we just missed them. Swimming and wallowing in the mud to cool down. There's a few individuals quite close to our vehicle here, and as Wium zooms in, you'll notice that they are full of moisture and mud, and that's a sure indicator that they have in fact been swimming and wallowing around. And I think we literally just finished them, and the adults are here as well. They're all scattered out, so the full pack is here as far as I'm aware, and there's quite a few playing right behind our vehicle, rolling in the dust. I think I may need to reposition ever so slightly, but hard to know what to do. There's so many of them. It looks like, yeah, let me just reposition ever so slightly, because these youngsters are playing around quite spectacularly. There you go, man. Look at this. Covered in mud, also full bellies, and like most young animals, full of energy and playfulness. And hello to Sandy, thank you very much for your kind words, acknowledging Jamie and my performance this morning, as well as the cameraman Tebbs and Wium, because they did a serious job making sure that you got to see all the footage. Now what I want to try and do is make sure we count how many youngsters there are here, because this morning it was hard to keep track of all the action, but here there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I can see. Uh-oh, what are you guys thinking? Are you guys coming to play next to the vehicle? close that Wium can hardly film them. And a great indication of the level of habituation that these animals have got used to. They basically don't even see us here, and that's exactly how we want it to be. We want them to carry on with their daily business with little or no changing of behavior for us. And all this playfulness is very important. So I'm just going to swivel the vehicle around again. All this playfulness is hugely important training for life as an adult wild dog in the future. As some of you got to see this morning, there was a really intense battle that ensued between the hyena and the wild dog, and this playful behavior will put them in good stead for taking on rivals like the hyena. Let's take a closer look. Okay, so far it's 8 pups, 2, 4, 6, and 2 more on the other side of us that I can see, and then 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, at least 9 adults that I can see, but no, there's a 10th adult. So at least 18 members, but I think this pack should have 20 or 21 members in it. Look at how cute this is. And another pup who was relaxing in the shade is now running in to join in the action. Look at that body posture, so typical of wild dog. Head held low. And they'll often do that when walking into kind of an open clearing or walking towards prey. The adults will all form a line, hold their heads low, kind of do the slow motion pace up towards their prey until the prey start running, and then a high speed long distance chase ensues. I'm so sad we didn't get to see them drinking. Literally, as we came over the dam wall, all of the pack members were still up and about. They must have just finished their mid-afternoon bath. But I'm guessing that they could well go back into the water before they head off hunting this evening. I'm just going to chat with Taxon quickly, who's coming to join us in the sighting. Taxon, we're on the northern side of the dam, just myself here. You're more than welcome to join. Look at how awesome this is. And again, against my prediction, certainly, it is such a hot afternoon. I can't believe these pups have got the energy to play with one another. Really interested that 6 of the 10 adults that we've caught did head off to the Djuma water that we saw earlier, and obviously decided that it wasn't a good spot to try and take the pups because there was just too much activity there, and it was almost impossible for them to have a drink. So they've decided to find some other water and came straight here, which again is against my predictions from this morning. This pack hasn't been here for so many months that we know of, and they literally ran straight along the road that leads directly to this area. So I didn't give them enough credit for their memory and knowledge of this area. And they must have some serious filing cabinets in that head of theirs, because they do cover such massive distances and aren't confined to a small territory. Their areas of movements are better defined as a home range, a massive area that they'll move quite freely between depending on wherever their luck is feeling the best. Hello to Casey in New York, and great to have you on safari with us. Casey's interested to know what predators will form a threat to these wild dog, and it all depends on the circumstances, but lion will be their probably number one threat outside of their own species. And I'm just going to reposition the vehicle ever so slightly. This marabou stork's having absolute fishing bonanza, and we'll be able to see some of the other pack members now that the pups have started lying down, as well as the marabou storks hunting. They're catching fish after fish. Oh, now they've just moved out of shot, but we'll try and get a view of them a little bit later. Anyway, Casey, lions I have seen catch and kill wild dogs, be it young pups and or adults. They are so big that they put up too much resistance to wild dog, even when the wild dog outnumber lion. This morning, for example, that one hyena, and there was actually two hyena initially that were being attacked. So the adults split up into two different groups, successfully attacking not one but two different hyena. That was hard to work out until we looked at the footage afterwards. Anyway, hyena can also in certain circumstances pose a threat to wild dog and their pups. Again, it's a numbers game. As soon as there's enough numbers and therefore power, the hyena would have been dominant or potentially dominant in a scenario like that. Leopard and cheetah are two predators that are unlikely to cause a lot of damage to wild dog, although leopards can and will catch wild dog pups. You can imagine when they're running wildly through the bush, an elusive animal like a leopard could quite easily snipe and ambush one of the pups and take it up a tree, and that has been documented before. But as far as I've seen in the Sabi Sands, leopards most often give way to wild dogs, even if they have a kill, if that the wild dogs may smell and come charging in, leopards get up a tree and avoid confrontation at all costs. So it's mainly lion in terms of predators, but one of their biggest killers, sadly, Casey, is rabies. Canine rabies, a deadly virus, and with their highly social nature, if one of them gets it, the whole pack is basically doomed. So let's hope that doesn't happen, and it is a cause for a lot of wild dog deaths in Africa. So let's Now, some of you may be wondering where exactly we are. I know Lynn thinks we might be on Arethusa. And Lynn, we are actually at the Buffleshoek waterhole. So, not on Arethusa, but on the northeastern corner of Juma. Speaking of Arethusa, though, we have just got an update from Vernie, and thanks so much for the update, Vernie, and to all of you who send us through updates. And he says there's also a plethora of game in and around the Arethusa waterhole. Now, as much as I do love these wild dogs, I really would like to get you a view of the marabou storks hunting. It seems like the wild dogs are going into a little bit of a doze after their snooze, and there's just so much action down at the waterhole that I think it will be in our best interest to go there and have a look. I'm just not sure which is going to be our best route to get there. Let's just stop and enjoy these pups. They've just got up and active again. So interesting stuff. So far I've counted 9 adults and 8 pups, but there may be 1 or 2 lying under bushes where I cannot see. Hello, Andrena, and thanks for your humor. She says she certainly wouldn't want to have to look after all these dirty dogs and have to give them a bath. And you're right, Andrena. Don't be fooled, though. They smell far worse than they look. They're really smelly animals, and you can often actually smell them before you can see them. Just going to keep the guides updated. It's a bit of broken down telephone going on here on the Game Drive channel. Taxon, it is just myself here. Sounds like you and Ephraim would like to make your way. We are on the northern side of the dam. Can you believe this? Absolutely awesome. And I've been so mesmerized by their beauty and just enjoying watching them that I forgot to maybe get my camera out and fire off a few snaps. This is a rare and wonderful sighting that I should be making the most of photographically. Oops, sorry. I lost focus there for a second and then my head got in the way of Wium's camera lens. Yeah, this is them. You can hear high-pitched whining. Just going to reposition the vehicle again. Looks like they're all bullying one here. Now, interesting comment through from Gerda mentioning that they always keep going for the neck. And you're right, they are, and that's instinct, Gerda. They know that that's the best place to go. It's the most effective place to try and hurt or kill an animal. And they would have been born with that instinct, and now they are just honing the techniques of how to execute that move. So you're completely correct, and I think it's actually the rest of the young pups teaming up on what looks to be a smaller, younger runt. Again, normally in nature to pick on the weak, frowned upon in human society. Oh, look here on the right. This one's stalking the other pack members. Look at this. Full stalk mode. Has it lost focus? Or will it resume its hunt? Here it goes. Here it goes. Head held low. Stalking the other three just up ahead of us. Awesome. There's the throat hold again. And just dental bites, but again, the muscle memory is critical, and that's what they're learning here. Going for those vital parts of the body when attacking not only prey, but also potential predators. Well, Kathleen just would like to, confirmation that this is in fact the same pack from this morning. It is indeed, Kathleen, exactly the same pack that we were viewing on the early hours of this morning. I'm not too sure where the other pack, the Investec pack, is. Very similar in size, although not as many pups. Not as many adults, only 3 adults and about 11 pups, whereas this pack has got far more adults. Oh, here they go again. Thanks so much for all the great questions coming through. The next one's from Sarah in Ohio, and she would like to know, with 10 adults in the pack, what would be in all likelihood their biggest prey? Now, I'm not sure. Even if you were to take many packs of the same size and do research on them, I'm guessing you would find very different results in terms of what prey they may take down. But possibly prey as big as a kudu or even a wildebeest. But in this area there are so many impala around that I'm guessing that would be the easiest option, and that is what they would tend to stick to. If only they needed to take down bigger prey, then of course they would. But generally in this area they've got an abundance of smaller prey that they would be more inclined to hunt and take down. That's not to say that they could not take down prey as big as an adult blue wildebeest, which we do get you, and who knows, maybe this evening that's what they'll do. We've got you two just to the right of the vehicle here that are sadly not going to be able to be filmed by Wium. but he's going to have to find some other ones to film, I guess, because we're kind of surrounded by them. I don't know what your best option is there, Vian. Maybe around there. You can see it's quite a windy afternoon. You may see dust getting kicked up from time to time through the monitor, so that's good for us and the dogs, keeping us a bit cooler than we would naturally be. And that breeze has just picked up recently. We've got a good options here again, Vium. They've moved far enough away to film. Well, hello, Matty in Ohio. One of my safari friends. He's been following the show for quite some time now. Matty, sorry to hear that you were asleep this morning, but at least you're getting to see the wild dogs this afternoon. We had an incredible sighting though, and we found them very early on. We actually started the safari about 2 or 3 minutes earlier than normal. And after about 5 minutes, we heard a hyena howling and whooping and squealing. It was not very happy, and the 10 adults had managed to start attacking two different hyena. One hyena managed to then get away and run off, and then all 10 of the adult dogs started teaming up on one poor hyena. It was trying its best to sit down on its bottom so that they couldn't attack its back legs, because they prefer to attack from behind. Obviously the hyena's got a very big mouth with powerful jaws, so while some wild dogs were distracting the sharp end, its mouth, others were really biting its bottom and its legs, and it didn't know what to do with itself, and eventually, luckily, it managed to get a small gap and run off and disappear. After that, we followed the dogs. They ran past some giraffe, started chasing an elephant around. It was absolutely crazy. And eventually, they managed to catch an inyala. We didn't get to see that though, and we found them when they'd already almost finished the whole kill. But it was an action-packed morning with lots of racing around, and I'm hoping that this afternoon will be the same. We're certainly getting off to a great start watching all these pups playing, and I'm sure you're enjoying spending time with them as much as we are. Good to know you're watching, Maddie, and I hope all is well with you. I think I'm going to reposition again. this is the first time I've got a question through from Barbara in Potchefstroom, which is a town here in South Africa. And good to have you on board, Barbara. Barbara would like to know if these little pups will be establishing their hierarchy from such a young age whilst play fighting with one another. And yes, most certainly, Barbara, they will be now learning and establishing dominance amongst other members of their pack, even from such a young age. That most certainly is the case. And let's just hope that the majority of these pups do make it to adulthood. The mortality rate of wild dog pups is incredibly high. And if these pups make one wrong move, which may be purely bad luck, i.e., they're running around from A to B following their parents at high speed, that's how wild dogs operate, they could run straight into a pride of lion. Imagine if these tiny little dogs, which weigh just over 20 kilograms, ran into the Birmingham boys. It would be an absolute bloodbath. And to give you an idea of the hatred between a lot of the predators and competition between them, on one circumstance I was watching a pride of lion and they were hunting on the one end of the airstrip. A pack of wild dogs started hunting from the other end of the airstrip and were chasing a herd of impala straight towards these lion. The lion saw what was happening, dropped flat into the grass, and impala ran just meters past the lion. So easy for them to catch, but the lions weren't interested in the impala, and they wait for the impala to go flying past them, and as soon as the dogs got into range, they exploded from the vegetation, thankfully only managing to catch one. But it is an example of how these animals' hunting techniques and lifestyle, it's not a safe one, and they can get themselves into trouble very, very quickly. The story does have a twist in the tail though, and it was one of the most crazy things ever. The lioness had caught the one wild dog pup and had it in its mouth. It was walking around with it for a couple of minutes, and it dropped it in the long grass as another wild dog came running up to the lioness to try and chase it away. In absolute desperation, we all thought that wild dog was crazy, which it was, I guess, in retrospect. Oh, these pups are getting very excited on the right here. One adult there to intervene. And don't worry, when they do get up to start getting active a little bit later, when they start getting active properly, the whole pack is going to run around in circles, greeting one another, chattering. So you are going to get an opportunity to hear and see a full-blown wild dog ritualistic display, which they do just about every time they wake up in the afternoon and in the morning, to build camaraderie amongst the pack before heading out. So that will happen a little bit later on. Anyway, back to the story. The lioness had one wild dog in its mouth. Another wild dog came running up to it, and the lioness dropped the apparently dead pup and started chasing the one wild dog that was giving it a hard time. And lo and behold, the dead wild dog pup lifted up its head, saw the coast was clear, and limped off into the distance. And it did manage to survive for about 3 or 4 days after the attack, but sadly the wounds that it sustained were too much, and in the end there was another twist in the tail, and that's an unfortunate one. But the bottom line is, lots of interesting things happen out here in nature, and it's merely our role to observe and spectate and document all this interesting behavior that goes on. Well, I'm thinking of repositioning just to show you what's going on at the waterhole, and while we do, we're going to send you across to Jamie, who's got a wonderful sighting lined up for you.
We're still with our wonderful elephant herd that we saw drinking earlier. And here we have probably either the matriarch or definitely a high-ranking female in this herd, and her very, very distinctive tusk. So nice that we get to spend as much time as we do with individual elephant herds that we get to know and recognize. It's time for that buffalo thorn to move. She didn't like that where it was. Thinks it looks better there. What she's actually doing is, fallen trees like this make for perfect sheltered seed banks. So the vegetation that they find underneath here quite often has a bit more in the way of nutritional content. See how she's, there you go, that was a perfect example of the green perennial plants that are hiding under fallen trees like that. And we've mentioned a lot about how elephants shape the landscape, and of course we focus a lot on the fact that they push over trees. You don't really talk about the fact that they create those perfect sheltered environments that they can then utilize afterwards. It's all a very important part of the balancing system out here. The rest of the herd is all around us, but for now we've got the best view of this beautiful girl. Reaching up into the buffalo thorn, it has been responsible for multiple injuries, minor admittedly, but multiple injuries on my behalf. Scratches and hooked thorns. You can see how delicately she's feeling around to pick the bits of that plant that she enjoys the most. It's so interesting the way that she's adapted to utilizing that tusk. I'm watching her now use the normal looking one, the upwards facing one, and yet the deepest groove, the most utilized part of both of her tusks is on the other one that curves downwards. And I wonder if she hasn't learned to use it to her advantage. There you can see that tusk is pretty much perfectly formed. There's no real groove or strip where she's been using it to break off branches. And we saw with that encounter down at the dam, she's definitely one of the biggest females in this herd. Shift around so we can get a slightly better view. One of the young ones. Who's off to our right. Hello. Hello, baby. Now we just had that remarkable scene playing out at the dam with the elephants and the buffalo standing off against each other to try and have access to the waterhole. And Vernie, you've sent us through quite a few questions. Please let us know where it is that you're from. We love to hear how far and wide our live safaris actually reach. Bernie, you wanted to know, it seems to put the smaller critters in at a bit of a disadvantage to try and compete for access to water there. Is that actually the case? What does it mean for them? When there's a shortage of water and the elephants are dominating. It just means that they have to be extra cautious. They'll still get access to the water, quite often in the late evenings or the early mornings, which then puts them at risk of attack by predators. And this time of year, or this time of season, probably the animal that is at the biggest advantage or the animals that are at the biggest advantage is the predators. They don't have to go searching nearly as far and wide for food. The smaller critters will still have access. It's going to get more and more limited, and there's going to be more and more conflict situations. Luckily for this small critter, he's got the protection of much bigger relatives, which certainly helps when your mom is easily 4 tons. Hello, Mom. Yes, I'm talking about you. This is a beautiful elephant herd sighting, but I know that Scott still has the wild dogs with him, and I think we should head across there and see what those always interesting canines are up to.
So we did go and take a closer look at the waterhole, but it appears that the marabou storks who were hunting very effectively a few moments ago have now stopped and have full bellies. But we do have another angle on the majority of the adults in the pack, and so far I'm still only counting 9 adults and 8 pups, which means that there are potentially a few members of this pack missing. I'm not entirely sure of the exact makeup of this pack, which is officially called the Sabi Sands pack. I got into a little bit of trouble this afternoon for calling it the half-tail pack on one of the update groups that we use to update all the different guides in the Sabi Sands as to what is going on with different sightings, and I've been told that the half-tail male, who was a member of this pack, is no longer alive, and therefore they are no longer called the half-tail pack. So we must all jump onto that boat and start calling them the Sabi Sands pack. It's one of 3 packs that move through the Sabi Sands. The Toulon pack is the other one, and the Investec pack is the third. Interestingly enough, there's a person doing incredible research and monitoring the wild dogs within the Kruger National Park very closely. And at the moment he says there's a total of about 200 adults and of about 50 pups. So we are incredibly fortunate to be viewing about a tenth of the total amounts of wild dogs in the whole of the Kruger National Park. It's 3 million hectares. It is a massive, massive reserve where we get to traverse only a tiny little pinprick. So that gives you an idea of how fortunate we are. And like I say, not too sure of the exact makeup of this pack, but I believe it was about 20 members. So if any of you do know a little bit more about the Sabi Sands pack and their last updates, as I know a lot of you follow the different animals and their Facebook groups very closely, feel free to let us know. Well, I've just got a very tricky question through from Trent in Fiji, and he would like to know what would be the natural population of wild dogs if there wasn't the harmful effects of rabies and also of us as humans. And sure, Trent, I wouldn't even be able to hazard a guess, but certainly far, far more than there are running around now. Interestingly enough, they can do quite well not living in actual reserves. They've got a way of breaking through fences and don't tend to listen to electrified fences. fences, which most other animals adhere to. And because of that, they run around crossing highways, but they always manage to make a plan and survive. The only problem is when they start running free, their likelihood of coming across domestic dogs with rabies is very high, and that will more often than not be their main killer. So even though they do ideally require massive home ranges in order to be able to survive, even without them, even if they had to live in kind of semi-suburban scenarios, which I believe two are currently living in a city called Nelspruit, which borders the Kruger National Park, which is a little bit further south of where we are here. Apparently there's two that have set up a temporary kind of home range in and around the suburbs of Nelspruit. So not too sure, Trent, on that answer, that question, but a great one. And if anybody again would like to shed some light on some figures that they may know regarding Trent's question, please feel free. This is a wonderful platform to share knowledge. And very often you guys do provide us with absolute little nuggets of information that are so great to pass on to the other safari goers. Well, Sandy in Florida has just made a good observation, and she says that considering that both the alpha and beta female gave birth, which is not always the case in wild dog society, usually it's just the alpha, and they can give birth to up to 20 pups, just one individual. So the fact that two of them have given birth to such a few doesn't really add up. And you're right, Sandy, I'm not too sure how many they started with, how many may have died in the den sites. And how many have died since the pack started running with the pups. But like I said, the mortality rate is high, and I wouldn't be surprised if half of the original birthing number have already died. But again, because they weren't on our property, I haven't really followed them too closely. I need to actually do some homework as to what exactly their makeup was before they came into this area. But that's why I've been trying to keep a very close head count of them, and let's do it together now. So we're all in on this. Now, that's number 1, adults. 2, 3, 4, 5. Then number 6 is behind the bush here. You can kind of see it there. So that's number 6. 7, and 8. So we've got 8 adults here so far, and what I'm going to try and do is reposition onto the other side, and that way we might be able to get you some views of the pups. And there's also one adult across with the pups. I'm fairly certain now that it's just the 8 pups and 1 adult over there. So I've already lost track of this bunch. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 adult that side, I'm pretty sure. But let's go around there and have a quick look. Just going to have to squeeze past Ephraim and his guests who are enjoying the sighting as well. Ephraim was with us, and he's kindly going to make a bit of space for us. Thanks, F. Do you want to go up there, or are you good? Hello, everyone. Okay, now let's hope that all the wild dogs haven't run around and moved by the time we get there. Well, Karla asks a great question, and she's interested to know if all the pups will stay with this pack as they mature. And up to a point they will, but then some of them will leave. Some of the males will leave and go and try and spread their genes elsewhere. So very typical in nature that the adults when pups do become adults, they move off, and that way they ensure that they do not interbreed with their same pack members. Good question though, Karla. And it will be interesting to know when young males will leave the pack. I'm not too sure on those ages, and I guess it will vary greatly between individual packs. So now we're on to the pups, and we've got 1, 2, 3, sorry, I got a bit lost there. Then there is a 4th, a 5th, and a 6th lying slightly off to the left. Over there. So we're on to 6 pups. Everyone happy with that? Yes, there we go. That confirms things. 3 pups there, another 3 out in the open. So we've got 6, and if we just creep up ahead here, we're gonna get to see 7, 8, 9. So that's 9 pups, and then the 2 adults over there. Now I just want to make sure that none of the adults have moved. 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4. So it's 2 adults here, and then there was another 8 back there. Correct me if I'm wrong. 2, 4, 6. I need my abacus, everyone. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So at the moment we've got 10 adults, 9 pups. If anybody else has got a different equation and feels very strongly that my maths is incorrect, you are welcome to voice your opinion. If not, thumbs up, and at least we've done a good head count for the Sabi Sands pack. Sure, that pup is in dreamland, panting away very deeply. The adult seems to be a lot more familiar with these hot temperatures and also having a full belly full of inyala. It really is going to be interesting to see when they do decide to get active, and I cannot wait for that moment, because as I've said, the noise that these dogs will make and the excitement between all of them is going to be an incredible spectacle. And a scene that I cannot wait to share with you. And like I said this morning, we're in for a wonderful evening. Not that things are bad now, but spread the word. Tell some friends who may have never watched the show before that now is the time to tune in. We can expect to see a lot of great action from these dogs in the coming hour or so. So spread the word, and as I've said in the past, the more people that join in on the safari, the more places we will be able to take you. And wouldn't that be fun? Not only traversing the Sabi Sands, but other areas of Africa, and who knows, even the world. I wouldn't mind going on a tiger hunt with all of you, or maybe a jaguar hunt one day. So we all need to do our best to let everyone know about this wonderful concept, and also to share this incredible experience with one another. I've just been gazing around to make sure that none of the pups are also thinking of playing again, but it seems to be complete rest amongst the pack. The one catch about this evening that I have yet to warn you about is that we are very, very close to our northern boundary. And if they head north, it will be 60 seconds before they leave Juma, and we wave them goodbye. So everybody needs to think happy thoughts. And happy thoughts means dogs running in a southerly direction or even in a westerly direction towards the sun. Oh, one adult is up and about, maybe just repositioning, maybe. Getting a bit warm where it was if the sun was shifting. Yep, it looks like it's just moved into another shady spot there. Now, as far as my history with these animals go, this is quite a large pack. 10 adults, 9 pups, although sadly you don't really count the pups because until they're adults there's a very strong chance they're not going to make it. So you only really look at the adults when counting a pack of wild dogs. I guess fairly similar to a pride of lion. If there's a pride of 20 lion with 20 little cubs or yearlings, you don't really count them because they still have a long way to go before reaching adulthood. So that's just something to know. And Ashley in Alabama would like to know, what is the average size of a pack? Is this a big pack? Is this a small pack? A lot depends on the area, Ashley. However, ten adults is a healthy size pack. Anything less than that, I guess you'd consider a small pack. 10 to 20 would be a healthy wild dog pack of kind of an average size, but it's not uncommon to have packs of 20 plus wild dog, sometimes even into their 30s. Imagine the chaos then, following 30 wild dogs on the hunt. Imagine all the mouths they had to feed. I mean, really insane stuff. I've never seen a pack that big. The biggest pack I've seen was actually in Kenya, and it was about 20 adults and 8 pups, and that was in an area, like I was explaining earlier, where they aren't bound to one small wilderness area, although a lot of Kenya is still basically wild, and a lot of areas are unfenced with wild animals living in amongst people with their cattle. But this area was a bit more developed, a lot of farmlands, but in and amongst the farmlands are a few little conservancies, and what these wild dogs would do is they would run across roads, through fences, into little conservancies where they would do their hunting, and they would kind of hopscotch through these urbanized areas, and that was where I've seen one of the biggest packs of my life. So I guess we could consider this to be a healthy wild dog pack number in terms of numbers, but not the biggest, not the smallest. Well, there's some good news, everyone. It sounds like James and Jamie are both trying to decipher where a leopard has moved. They've obviously got some tracks, and Jamie would like to keep you updated on that exciting operation.
We definitely are on hot on the trail of Karula. We got a call from one of the ladies working at the lodge to say that she saw Karula walking along the fence line and into the drainage line. Big request from my side. Please, please keep watching the Djuma Dam. She could well come along that direction. And I think those were the alarm calls that I must have heard earlier when we stopped for that herd of elephant. And it's these guys as well that we're sitting watching. They're also going to serve as a perfect early warning system. And let us know if they spot Karula somewhere in this block. Already done one loop. Around there. I've just stopped now to see if I can hear any alarm calls and to see how alert the kudu are looking. They are sniffing around. Every now and again, this go-away bird just over there gives a sort of a non-committal go-away call, and I can't quite decipher if it's just calling to communicate with other birds or if it's off, if it's letting us know that Karula's there. This block, or these blocks around here, are just a network of drainage lines, but it's exactly where Scott saw her disappearing into yesterday afternoon. So she went all around, she looped all around the area, around the camp where we all live, and then ducked down behind the lodge. And I wonder if she's not heading out to look for some water now. It's a little bit earlier than I would be expecting her to be out, but she clearly was because she was seen. I wonder where she's disappeared. Well, I need to concentrate fiercely on the search and communicate with James and coordinate our efforts. So in the meantime, let's head back across to Scott and I will catch up with you fantastic Queen of Juma.
Well, no doubt you are now up to date on the leopard hunt, the search for what sounds to be Karula. And wouldn't that be a magical addition to what's already been a wonderful day in terms of predator sightings? It's a Cape turtle dove calling loudly. In the nearby distance. Other than that, I can't shoot too much. In terms of bird song, had quite a funny message from Jamie this morning over our early morning cup of coffee at about 4:30 a.m. in the dark, and I'm a very deep sleeper, so I don't tend to hear much at night. But Jamie alerted us to the presence of a black cuckoo that came and landed in a marula tree that grows up in the middle of a courtyard that our camp kind of creates. And as he said, this black cuckoo was calling non-stop at about 3:30 in the morning for half an hour or so, and its call rings out, "I'm so sad." And that would have been a very interesting half an hour for the lighter sleepers in the camp, but like I said earlier, thankfully I'm a deep sleeper. Although nothing worse than waking up in the morning and everyone around you has heard the lion and heard the hyena, and all I've heard is their updates when I get up. But I did go and get my ears tested while I was on leave, as it's become a concern for me, and I have less than perfect hearing, but nothing to be too concerned about at this stage. So there's an update on Scott's hearing, which I know you're all dying for. Sorry that I've been keeping it a secret from you for so long. A few of those little pups have just repositioned ever so slightly, and we've just got a great question through from Bren, and they would like to know, has anybody gone back into the area where we saw a tiny Inyala? Running off this morning, and it was in that same area where this pack of wild dogs killed an adult female Inyala. Now I'm guessing that there's a strong likelihood that the female Inyala that they did take down was the mother of that tiny Inyala lamb. And nobody's been back into that area, not that I know of, and it's, even if we had, and even if we did find a visual of that baby Inyala, there would be nothing that we would do. And I know a lot of you would be like, how can you leave that poor baby Inyala? Again, it's our job to spectate. As soon as humans start intervening with nature and Mother Nature's plans, we are doing the animals an injustice by rescuing that baby Inyala. Yes, it would be great for that individual Inyala, but for the greater good of all the predators in this area that rely on catching prey, that baby Inyala could be an easy meal that makes the difference. Imagine that hyena that we saw this morning that was getting attacked by the wild dogs. It's going to be in a seriously horrible state, full of pain, desperate, and if it comes across that Inyala, that may make the difference. It may help it recover, it may help it heal, and that is Mother Nature's plan. So we don't know where it is. I did have a look for it as we drove past after it ran off into the bush, and as soon as I didn't see anything, I thought, well, there's nothing more we can do, and even if we did see it, all we after it ran off into the bush, and as soon as I didn't see anything, I thought, well, there's nothing more we can do, and even if we did see it, all we would have been able to do is look at it. So there's no kind of inclination for any of us to want to go there to try and rescue that Inyala. It would be interesting to see, if anything, how long it does survive for, but if it was its mother that was killed, it's only going to be a matter of hours, and it'll be unlikely that it survives the night alone. Now, still on the topic of predators hunting, Trisha in Toronto would like to know if have become desensitized to the trauma and horror that is these wild animals killing, especially wild dogs, who have quite a brutal and gory way of going about things. And whether that's a relation to the fact that we may have seen a lot of kills over the years we've
positioning. Seems as though Scott's signal is a little bit more stable, and we definitely want to get as much out of our wild dog sighting as possible. So let's try one more time to head across to Scott and see what he's seeing.
So well done to Jamie and James for that incredible tracking work this afternoon. Look at the beautiful golden lights on these dogs. They're about to cross over our northern boundary into Buffleshoek. So we just thought we'd bring you back very quickly to say goodbye. And what an afternoon it's been with such wonderful animals. It's been the first time that I've spent time with them in many months, and look forward to spending more time with them in the coming weeks and months. So this is our northern boundary. They've just got onto it, and you can see a few of the adults here. In all likelihood, they are going to cross north into Buffleshoek. No guarantees just yet though, and maybe they'll prove us wrong again. But only time will tell. I had a strong feeling that they were going to just continue straight north over the boundary, but they've slowed down a little bit. And while they're still here, I can continue answering Matty's question from a little bit earlier. And he was wondering, why do wild dogs not really chase their prey into water, but are happy to get cool in it? And like I said, Matty, I think they'll be cautious of crocodiles swimming deep into the water after their prey, but just being in the shallows on the water's edge, they're not going to feel as vulnerable. So I guess that's kind of one potential reason as to why they don't like going and swimming after their prey. Good question though, Matty. I'm glad to see you thinking about all these different things and why do animals perform certain things in nature and other ones not. A lot of the questions though, you'll have to ask the animals themselves, as we as humans can only guess as to why they may act the way they do. Hello to Dave in Texas, and Dave's picked up on another good point, and that is, won't their very pungent smell give away their positions to their prey? Dave, because of their hunting techniques, they could be running around with balloons tied to their heads and it wouldn't make a difference. It doesn't matter if their prey can see them, because they start chasing from a far distance. They are not ambush hunters, they are stamina hunters, and once they've seen their prey, they don't need to creep up on it. Obviously they'll try and get as close as they can without giving their position away, but if it's walking through a big open clearing in order to get closer to the impala, that's what they'll do. As soon as the impala see them, they will start running, and that's when the chase ensues, and that chase will go on for a very long period of time. So it's not a stealthy ambush like lion and like leopard. Therefore, their smell, their color, even if they had balloons tied to them, it wouldn't make a difference. They are simply too fast with too much stamina for their prey to escape, and that's why they've got such a high success rate. Just going to creep forward a few more meters. It looks like we're in luck and that they've stopped moving, and there is also another vehicle behind us, so I just want to try and free up a spot for them to also have a good view. There we go. Looks like one or two members of the pack have started crossing over though into the northern boundary, or over our northern boundary. And I know Jamie touched on a very good point this morning, which kind of confirms how prey will react to these predators when they see them. When impala see lion and leopard, they will alarm call. They'll stand their ground, not stand their ground, but alert the predator and everything else that they know what is going on. And as soon as that predator lacks the elements of surprise, the game is over. When impala see wild dog, they don't bother snorting and shouting and warning other impala in the area. They start running for their lives, because even though they have detected the predator does not rely on ambush. So even without the elements of surprise, these animals are still successful hunters, and that goes to show why they manage to take down so much prey, why they've got such a high success rate, higher than any predator in Africa. They are the most successful African mammal when it comes to hunting in areas like this. There's nothing that tops them. Now, I think all of the adults have crossed over. This is one. Interesting question through from Lael in Las Vegas, wondering how high can a wild dog jump, and would they be able to jump into the vehicle? I have not a question of doubt in my mind that if they felt the need, they would quite comfortably be able to jump onto my lap, or even higher than that, onto Wium's lap. He's a little bit more elevated than me. But they're not big jumpers. They don't really have a huge necessity to jump. Their hunting doesn't require it, so I've never actually seen wild dog doing any serious jumping, but like most wild animals, their muscles and agility are far greater than ours, and I guess maybe far greater than even domestic dogs. And I know of many domestic dogs of a similar size that would have no trouble getting into this vehicle. On that topic though, Lael, they're not very aggressive towards humans, and I don't think a human has ever been killed by a wild dog, possibly injured, and that would have in all likelihood been with wild dogs that are in captivity. But wild dogs living in the wild are not inclined to ever attack humans or to confront humans. When you find them, when you are on a walking safari or you are tracking them, they tend to run off a few meters, lie down and start relaxing again. So they don't provide any threat to us. Them and cheetah, I guess, are the two main African carnivores that prove very little threat to us as humans. I think I can creep forward a little bit more and get you some better views. Well, thanks so much to Vernie from a wonderful African country, Zimbabwe. And Vernie's done some research regarding Trent's question on what would wild dog numbers be if there wasn't rabies and if there wasn't us humans running around the planet, and didn't come up with any conclusive figures. But what he did come up with was a great kind of conclusive fact, and that is that wild dog are often very dominant over leopard and cheetah. This morning we saw also hyena from time to time, and therefore they would be possibly second in the predator hierarchy below lion if it wasn't for all these obstacles that they're up against. And I know for a fact in South Africa they used to roam the whole country before we got in the way, and other viruses like rabies, I guess. Thankfully though, these pups look in great health and are at the moment certainly not worried about anything else other than playing with one another and I guess possibly the next meal. But they are quite full-bellied. They got some tasty inyala to feed on this morning, and maybe it won't be long before the adults return to call these pups to a kill. Now again, this is interesting because I haven't had much time to spend with these dogs. One's chasing its tail there. Can you believe it? What next? That is a bad habit, little pup, and you should try and stop that as soon as possible. But it's having a good time. And as I was saying though, what's interesting here is that there are no adults present, so it's just the 2, 4, 6, oh hang on, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 pups. I think that's what we agreed on earlier, 9 pups, 10 adults. And what's Wium seen? Ah, is that the babysitter there? So it looks like Wium has spotted one adult, and I've just seen another one running off in the kind of distance there. It's just disappeared behind that termite mound. So there are 1 or 2 adults still lurking about, but there is a strong chance that they will be left completely unattended. And what happens if a pride of lion comes along now? Even though they are aware and they know what dangers are, they certainly have met lion, have met leopard, and know what to do when they come across them, but they don't have quite the same level of knowledge and experience of how to detect these predators, and may detect them a little bit too late. It's a good example of how dangerous life as a wild dog pup is. You know, for the adults, it's very important that they join forces in securing meals. Food is one of the most important things in nature, and without food, and therefore energy and strength, these pups wouldn't be able to prosper and grow. So it's a kind of fine balance between, do we babysit and send out less people in search of food, or do we focus on trying to get as much food as possible? We need to get you over to Karula. We're not going anywhere. Enjoy.
About a split second ago, she removed her head from the elephant dung pillow that she had found. Something has attracted her attention. She's up, looking around. She might actually be going for a drink now that the buffalo that were around the waterhole have disappeared. Even with a very full belly, look how lithe she is. And that incredible tawny color in the setting sun is a breathtaking spectacle. We truly are so lucky to be seeing what we have been. Oh, big yawn. Hard, hot day. Oh, with that very full belly, she probably won't need to eat tonight. But leopards are opportunists, so she'll be on the lookout for a potential catch. Absolutely stunning. Let's loop around her. Again, good manners. Never drive at the animal or straight behind them and try and get closer. Always take it at a slightly sideways angle. I do think she's going to head to the water. Here she comes. hear the sound of her lapping. Well, it might be a bit too windy for you guys to pick up on it, but I can hear her drinking away. Very faintly lapping. Very happy. Just bear with me one moment. I just need to hop on the game drive channel, otherwise there's the potential of a car coming round without realizing. Our stations, this Ingwe is now Puzumati at the Galago waterhole. Stunning. Alright, Andrew's on his way. Now both Pamela and Ginny, you saw that enormous belly as she was moving. And you were asking if she's pregnant or just full. She's just full at this point. The fact that she was mating with Tingana last week, she definitely wouldn't be showing, if she is pregnant, she wouldn't be showing just yet. I mentioned that right in the middle of her forehead, characteristically, is the word wow. And Diane, you were saying that you struggled to find it. Don't worry, I struggle too. I'm going to try and get you a nice image of her face from front on, but I'm sure many of you got screenshots from earlier when she looked directly at us. You can send those through on hashtag SafariLIVE on Twitter, or you can email them through to questions@wildearth.tv. We always appreciate having them. And Diana will try and point it out to you. It's not all that visible, but if we look now... Oh, dogs are crossing. Let's head across to Scott.
This is the chattering I was hoping you would hear earlier, and obviously not easy for anyone to take you away from those leopards, or that beautiful leopard drinking, but look at this incredible interaction. We see leopards drinking, but we don't see this very often. I'm just going to keep quiet now so you can listen. And just like that, the adults are off after greeting the pups. You got you just seconds after they returned, so you didn't miss much. And it looks like the adults are now heading west down the Buffleshoek cut line. And interestingly enough, they had done a big loop. They crossed north into Buffleshoek, but then approached from the south. So they'd come back into Djuma before returning to these pups. And wasn't that remarkable to see that intense bonding and maintenance of relationships between these pack members? So critical for their well-being. They all need to be team players. And these bonds that they are building daily are critical for their well-being and survival. I think it is time for us to reposition. And we've been very kindly offered to head in front of the other vehicle that is in the sighting with us. Thank you very much. And we just need to acknowledge that because
one of these pups was so interested in playing with its other family members that it almost ran under the vehicle, which would have been a terrible thing to happen. And what we are going to be able to do is just stop over here. That way the other vehicle can also get to see what's going on, and you'll get a last few glimpses of this pack. Some members are already a couple of 100 meters down the road, but these pups are too busy playing with one another. It appears like one is being bullied here, but it doesn't seem too concerned. And Karula is on the move. There's a chance she may disappear, but I'm sure a lot of you would agree that we do see leopard far more often than these wonderful animals, so I don't think anyone will be upset if we do stay here. Not an easy decision for Nikki to be making in the director's chair, but I agree fully with it. So two different wrestling matches going on. It would be wonderful to know the relationships between the siblings from the different litters. And I have noticed a few slight size variances. The alpha and beta female would not necessarily have given birth at exactly the same time. So some pups may have a week or two on top of the others in terms of age. Oh, hello. And can you believe this? Right up next to the side of the vehicle. We need to just make sure they're not chewing on our tires. Not that they would puncture them, but maybe we would try and stop them to prevent them getting too familiar with the vehicles. But again, so fortunate to be able to view wild animals that have never spent a night in captivity, that are so relaxed with our presence. And they go about their daily business as if we're not even here. Which is the fundamental goal, I guess, that all of us strive towards, to be able to enjoy sightings with these animals, having very little or no impact. Oh, here come some of the adults. Now, why is it running so quickly? Are the other members of the pack chasing some prey into this area? That is a possibility. Or have they come back to round up the pups and get them on the move? Hard to say. And great for you to actually be able to see them running freely. Oh, there is one adult that's racing along, and I think they could well be chasing some possible prey. Great work there on camera, Wium. I'm just going to turn around quickly and try and work out what's going on. I can see one adult returning or joining us from the left. And I'm just telling the other vehicle to press on, and they can race ahead to go and see what's happening. Fair is fair. They let us go in front earlier, and the least we can do is give them an opportunity to race off down that road. Such exciting stuff following these animals. And you can see a cloud of dust behind that other vehicle. I'm just going to stand by here. Oh! You know what? I think that we are in luck, and they're going to chase something into the Buffleshoek waterhole. I saw them crossing the road down to the south. Hold on, everyone. Sorry, Wium. I took a bad pathway here. I'm so excited. I took the wrong road. But I saw them heading off in a southerly direction, and their prey could well be running towards the Buffleshoek waterhole. Hold on. It's a gamble, but yeah, they're still going that way. There's some straight up ahead of us crossing the fire break. Things are looking good still. And it won't be the first time that a pack of wild dogs has... Please may the signal stay strong. nothing to see here yet. But it's worth just waiting a little bit longer. They could appear from any direction, and you guys were here for that whole journey. It would not take them long to get you if they were still chasing their prey. And what I'm going to try and do is maybe just stop and listen here for a while. Apologies for the false start, the false alarm, but we could well have arrived here to some serious action. I saw a number of dogs crossing in a southerly direction. I'm not sure what they were chasing. I didn't get a glimpse of that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to possibly drive up in that direction. Maybe they've already successfully managed to bring down whatever it is they were chasing. And I know a little bit of a sneaky alleyway that's not on a set road that's going to get us what I think will be into a good position. I hope everyone's still there after that. Sign of the pack popping out at Buffleshoek Dam. I'm going to head north from there in the block and see if I can't get them. The tricky thing I'm facing is I don't know the other person's name, so I'm not sure how to get a hold of them. So that's the predicament I'm going through now. If I knew the other person's name, then I'd be able to confidently call in over the radio, "Hey Bob, what's the story?" But we don't know that, so not to worry, we'll just go with a gut feel. Haven't heard a response from them. I just called in randomly saying that they're not here, and this is what I'm going to do, hoping that he would respond. Wouldn't it be nice if they were like regular dogs and you could just whistle? I'm only kidding. They're perfect the way they are. And they could be anywhere up here with a freshly made kill for all we know. They do make a little bit of noise when they're feeding, but not necessarily huge amounts of it. They're not going to be growling and making as much noise as lions fighting over a fresh kill. But still worth stopping and listening, even though I am partially deaf, which a lot of you have just realized today. And so happy that a lot of you really appreciated and enjoyed those incredible sounds that the pack were making a bit earlier. And Lisa mentioned that they sound like squeaky toys. That is a great analogy. They sound just like little toys. Thought I was making the right move and there was going to be a pack of wild dogs surrounding the Buffleshoek waterhole with some form of prey seeking refuge in the middle, but no luck this time. I think I owe Wium a few cold beverages when we get home for rattling him around on the back of the car there. We have just got a wonderful comment through from Cecilia mentioning that she thinks the name of the person in the other vehicle is called Toyota because it's written on the back of his truck. Thank you, Cecilia. That was very sharp, and I appreciate your humor. What's probably going to happen is we're going to find this unknown vehicle. We're going to call him Bob between us. And he's going to be sitting with the wild dogs all out and over. Oh, I've just seen an impala here. Seems to be looking in the direction where the dogs were running towards. So let's keep moving. Impala, this is a dangerous place to be hanging out. I would suggest moving on. Luckily though for the impala, wild dogs typically don't hunt deep into the night, and they are predominantly diurnal hunters, daytime hunters, just like a cheetah. Oh, I've just seen one way up ahead of us. So we've got visual of one dog in the area that we just came from. But what I will show you is where I last saw them crossing this little firebreak road that we're on now, and it was just about here. So they all started tearing into the bush in a southerly direction, and we saw them from up on the other side of this little riverbed that we're about to cross through. So obviously whatever they chased evaded them, or that just could be one member of the pack that has lost track of the other members. Hard to say, but let's go to where we know there is at least one wild dog running about, and he could or she could lead us to the rest of the pack. And interestingly enough, it appeared like even the pups were getting involved in that chase, and I guess good practice. They may not get involved in every single, and then they are when we left them. I've just done a big loop around, and the other vehicle is going to have a chuckle at us when I explain our story. I think I might actually stop here. We've got such a look at this. Beautiful. And if we were to get any closer, we would lack this beautiful low angle. Oh, settings are wrong on the Camara. And this would be a great time to take some screenshots. We've got a very unique angle here, and it's going to make for some wonderful images and memories. Aren't we all so lucky, guys? Really, this is just too good to be true. Well, maybe one out of the hundreds of photographs I'm taking I will like. Apologies for the sound of the shutter, but I'm just making sure I get at least one decent image. And if you would like to have a look at any of my images, seeing as though you go through the pain of hearing me taking the photographs, feel free to follow me on Instagram, Scotty D Safari, or on my Facebook page, Scott Dyson Safaris. And on that page there is also a wonderful video of the hyena attacking, or the wild dog attacking the hyena this morning. So if you would like to see a great clip that not only did Wium edit, but he also filmed, that's the place to go and see it. Look at the silhouette. lots of them playing. It's just incredible. Looks like Mr. Toyota is planning on getting a different angle. And now another great thing is that it's cooled down and not nearly as hot as it was a bit earlier on this afternoon. So really enjoying this cool part of the evening. I'm guessing it looks like most of the adults have run off again, leaving only the pups behind. Hard to tell what's going on. I think they're all just playing about here. They're running around in big circles. They are built for running, as you can see, and aren't shy to do it. And again, while the adults are off doing some serious hunting, these young pups are playing about, but again, getting vital training. And I think it may be, let's just stay here for one. I think they're going to run onto the road one more time. Get ready, everyone. Here they come. And they're moving so quickly that I think it's probably going to be best for us to stay just where we are for now. I think that was the money shot there, everyone. Beautiful. The cicadas are coming alive now too. Absolutely magical. And the Shelley's Franklin. To drink a beer, to drink a beer. Oh, these silhouette shots are so awesome. We've got every view imaginable of wild dogs today. Biting hyena, chasing elephant, running past giraffe. That was all on the Sunrise Safari. Feeding on an Inyala. I'm very glad to hear that Mary Sims agrees with us. This is so special. And that's Nikki and Marianne sending through some wonderful compliments, and also just expressing how much they are enjoying this action. Oh, are we seeing a little bit of stalking? I thought for a second the one pup. Oh, yeah, it's kind of. Oh, look at this! You guys should go to Hollywood. You are very good at entertaining. And just like that, it flopped down. Probably part of the playful nature urging the other one to come and entice it for a little bit more playtime. And they're off again. So we get a little bit closer. because wild dogs are daytime animals, we will not be shining any form of lights on them. So as soon as the light fades to a point where the camera doesn't work, we will stop viewing them. No different to cheetah. So just to forewarn you for that, if this is your first wild dog sighting that is going into low light into the evening, do not expect us to pull out the spotlights with them. Oh, I think I can see possibly an adult returning.
Yeah, that's an adult. And another one behind, possibly more. Oh, there was some zebra way off in the background there, I think, Wium. So, wild dog will be chased by zebra. It's one animal that generally doesn't tolerate wild dog. Oh, and there goes one wild dog in that same direction. Isn't this just incredible? The action does not stop when these animals are around. Well, Cathay is interested to know the hierarchy of this pack, as well as Judith in North Carolina. And I'd like to know who's in charge. Well, it will be an alpha and a beta female. The male will make the majority of the main decisions, and he will be often the most bold. Now, in terms of age, it will vary greatly amongst each individual pack. I'm not even sure who the alpha male and female are in this pack. I haven't spent enough time with them to know who's who, and therefore also don't have a clue as to how old they are. But it could be a young alpha, you know, is kind of in the early days of his prime, or it could be an older one. You know, there's always going to be variations from pack to pack, from pride to pride. But it'll be two individuals that are essentially king and queen of this pack. Amongst the youngsters, amongst all these siblings from two different parents, it would be interesting to know who's most dominant out of them. What have I seen just down the road there? It's another wild dog way down the road. So they're scattered out probably over from here to where I can see the one over there, about about half a mile, maybe just under that. And there's a few members moving way down the road. And what we're going to do is rush you across to Jamie for a quick update on what Karula's up to. We'll see you later.
Well guys, this might be our last view of the spectacular Queen of Djuma. She's moving through an unbelievably thick block. I'm going to try and keep a visual of her, but it looks like she's going to go into the thickest part of it, and I definitely can't drive after her, especially not with a spotlight as well. But at least we got to see her one last time. What a beautiful experience. And to see her drinking like that in the sunset. She's going to disappear now. And I think for now we'll head back across to Scott. We just wanted to show you her very briefly before she disappears off completely. I'll try and stick with her. Let's see how we go. Alright, let's head back across to Scott. I'll be back with you shortly.
Well done to Jamie. It sounds like she's been working tirelessly to get you some more views of Karula, who has been doing her usual Karula antics, dodging and weaving from side to side. Sounds like there's a little bit more chittering and chattering going on amongst these wild dogs. Listen carefully. I'm not sure how much it's going to continue, but there was a little bit of that high-pitched chattering that they use to communicate with one another. interesting question through from Mary Beth. Was it Mary and Beth in Ontario? Anyway, you would like to know if anybody's ever raised a wild dog and tried to keep it as a pet, and I can assure you though that it would have happened on countless times, but I don't know anybody that's done it firsthand, so I don't know any kind of firsthand kind of theories or explanations as to how well they react to being a pet in a family. But like you guys said, they are going to require a lot of exercise, and there's no human on the planet that would probably be able to take them for enough walks. But it would be interesting to know how they react to being domesticated. However, in general, I could almost assure you that it's not going to be a good idea. Animals that are supposed to be in the wild, especially an animal that requires intense pack interaction like these wild dogs, is simply not going to get enough, not only exercise, but even interactions from a human being. It would be a full-time job to try and have one of these as a pet. And I would guess that for the initial years, or initial months when they are young, like most animals, it's cute and cuddly and a good idea. But as soon as it reaches adulthood, you'll probably soon realize that it was a big mistake and that it should be living in the wild. So those are my guesses. I haven't got any kind of first-hand experience with anyone that has had them as pets. I don't know the finer details, but I'd be willing to say quite boldly that it is not a good idea to try and raise any of the wild animals as domesticated pets. I'm just going to take a sip of my ice cold water. Well, lots of messages flooding in saying painted puppies with pink sky. What a way to finish off the day. Thanks so much, everyone. And again, we haven't done much. We've just had to get the vehicle into this position. The dogs have done the rest, but Wium has been doing a wonderful job on camera, and we are hugely, hugely grateful for all your kind words. Again, we are so lucky to be sharing in this experience all together with people around the world, and I'm so, so happy to be here and be a part of it with all of you guys. Really, really awesome stuff. I'm not sure how much longer we are going to be able to stay with them. The light is fading very quickly, but we're not going to go anywhere until the last minute, until we really do have to move on. Looks like one or two adults may be rejoining. Hello Moo in Maryland, and Moo would like to know, are they part of the dog family? And yes, indeed they are. They are part of the Canidae family, and just so that everyone knows, there's a few interesting things that happen out here in nature. Hyena, which a lot of people may assume are also part of the dog family because of their appearance, are actually an entirely their own family. The Hyenidae family, and then we get the cat family, the Felidae. But the wild dog, Lycoan pictus, which means painted wolf-like animal, their Latin name, are certainly part of the Canidae family. And Raisa asked me to show you guys the money shot. It's not as ideal as I would like it to be. The dogs are slightly out of focus, but you get an idea. It's a beautiful silhouette shot of two of these pups dashing across the road, and that for me was a highlight of the evening. And thank you everyone for
dealing with the shutter going off. Wium mentioned the other day he cannot believe that in the 21st century cameras still have to make a loud clicking noise every time they take a picture, and he's exactly right. Let's try and enjoy a few more views. I think this will be the last one we get before we need to move on. There's simply not enough light left to enjoy the sighting. So it's time to say goodbye, and hopefully whoever's out tomorrow is going to have the great fortune of stumbling upon this pack again. It's impossible to say whether they're going to head further north or further south, but they're going to be around, and there's a chance we'll bump into them. But we're going to carry on now, making our way slowly back to camp. Hopefully we will bump into something interesting, but we're going to send you across to Jamie now for an update on how she's doing.
After a rather frenetic day of wild dog action, it's nice to end off with quite a peaceful scene. Maybe spend some time. You might see every now and again the tail swishing as we look at the pair of giraffe that are silhouetted against the night sky, and it's only really when they move, like the one on the left just ducked its head down, that you can actually see them. But it's such a beautiful image. I think it's going to turn and walk into the gap. Deborah, who's watching all the way in Kentucky. Deborah, it's a pleasure. There's nothing I enjoy more than spending... Ah, there we go. Sorry, Deborah, I'll be with you now. It's just such a beautiful image. The male following the female. Wow, take screenshots, look at this. It's so beautiful. And disappearing off into the bushes. Well, that was truly spectacular. What a stunning image. Let's go and see what else we can find in terms of nocturnal creatures. And Deborah, just before we finish off here. It's okay, Jigger. So let's try that one more time. That's a much better sound. We'll gloss over that for now and continue on our drive. Deborah, it's a pleasure. I'm glad that you've got to spend some time enjoying Karula. The wild dog action is, of course, worth every single moment that happens, but it's nice to catch up with a cat that is so familiar to all of us and just spend a bit of time with her as well. She's disappeared off into her favorite block, which is the one to the north of Gallagher, between Gallagher Shortcut and Mbubu Road. I imagine that is where she's going to spend the night. You might even find that she has some leftovers of a kill tucked away in there. And that's where she's hidden them, somewhere in that drainage line. Sorry, Davka. I'm glad that we've had such an incredible drive that Randy has sent us a message through to say drives, and I quote, drives, full stop, today, full stop, have been awesome in capital letters, and I'm thrilled to hear it. I have had a blast today, and I know that the entire WildEarth team has as well. We're all going to collapse into bed absolutely finished, but also exhilarated after the experiences that we've had with that wild dog pack. It has been truly phenomenal. We have just had some really good luck over the last few days. We've been spoiled that's the magical thing about our live safari drives, is that you just never know what's going to be around the next corner. And speaking of around the corner, tomorrow morning James will be back in the saddle, so to speak. He is back from leave and he will be driving you around once again. And just to clarify, I actually think my now patented technique for spotlighting, I happen to think it's more effective. So there, James. I think that when you are 5'7" and you have to stretch, it's being able to lift your arm up so you can spotlight down into the bushes and be just as effective. Just a quick message for James. We'll see. Well, maybe James and I should have a competition as to whose technique works the best. He does have a good point though, because it's exhausting, holding your shoulder up like that. Now, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, I know it's something that we sort of take for granted that the regular viewers know. But the spotlight that I'm using it to catch the reflection from the layer at the back of the eye of the animal. And it bounces back, the sort of highlights the eyes, and it happens so fast and so effectively that you actually barely need to look. Thanks, Tebbs. So it highlights exactly what it is you're looking for. Now, when what we usually do is we gloss over the diurnal, so the daytime animals that are out and about, which is of course why Scott had to leave those wild dogs. He can't sit with a spotlight on them. But as soon as we see their eyes reflected in the light, then we bounce over them and we leave them alone. You can usually tell it's usually a greenish color, the reflection. Sometimes red. I have had them reflect red depending on the angle, but it's not as bright as the nocturnal creatures that we're on the lookout for. Nocturnal creatures, like if we'd seen Karula, would have shone back at us like hazard lights. Completely agree with Colin. There is nothing like an African giraffe highlighted in the blood red of a sunset, especially at the end of a hot, dusty day like today, where the reds are coming through so strongly. Now, those giraffe are off to find themselves a safe sleeping spot. And Michael, you wanted to know, how do they sleep with such long necks? One thing they don't do, they don't rest their necks, so they don't put their necks down. They do lie down, they tuck themselves down, they fold up their legs and they lie on their bellies, but with their heads upright, and they sleep in that way. And the reason that they're able to do that and why they have to do that is their blood vessels are adapted to being upright. So the valves and everything that are layered up throughout their arteries and their veins, there's actually severe interference with that if they were to drop their necks. So to compensate for that and to make sure that they don't have to exhaust themselves holding up a really, what must be an absolutely enormously heavy weight, they have a tendon that runs down the back, from the top of their head, down the back of their spine, and attaches around their shoulder blades. And that acts as a way, so their natural resting position, it's a very tight, very tense tendon. The natural resting position is head upright. That's the way that they manage. It's similar, I'm not sure, Michael, if you know of bats, but the natural resting position of a bat's foot is closed tightly by tendons, and they actually have to tense their muscles to open it. In the same way, the giraffe has to tense their neck muscles at the base of their neck in order to lower their head down. Otherwise, they can relax completely and their head will stay upright. So that is how giraffes spend their nights, still on alert, and you can imagine you have to be very careful. How vulnerable must it make them to be fast asleep when there's lions prowling around at night, so they do have to be aware of that. And they sleep for fairly short shifts, maybe a couple of minutes at a time, up to 20 minutes at a time, before being alert to the world around them. I can't imagine you get much in the way of restful sleep if you're an antelope or something similar, spending the night in the bush. Dogs, on the other hand, they're going to go find somewhere comfortable to bunk down for the evening. Now, last night we were with them on Arathusa just before it got dark, and during the night they'd actually spent the entire night there and popped up very close to where we'd last had them on Juma, probably about 500 meters away from where they spent the night last night. So fingers crossed they might do something similar tonight and possibly be back with us tomorrow morning. It's been such an incredible amount of excitement. We're going to be exhausted by the end of it. I mentioned bats earlier when I was talking about the giraffe and the fact that their muscles resting position is with their feet closed, and that's just one of the many adaptations that they have out and about while they're flying through here. Now, we've discussed this morning, I know that I think it was Mo asked which species suffer the most in times of drought when the water tables get low. Interestingly enough, although the insect-eating bats might struggle to find food, bats as a species, or as a family actually, have such a wide variety of adaptations for coping with hard times. And one of those is, of course, you want to have a peak breeding season, particularly if you, well, both for fruit eating and for insect eating. The mothers want to have their babies around the time where they have the most access to resources. But if it is a bad year and the rains are delayed, the insects are delayed, possibly even there's not much in the way of fruit, the females can actually hold off their reproduction even after mating. So they can actually store the male sperm for a really long period of time before utilizing it if the conditions then become right. Otherwise she can then discard it completely. And how amazing is that they can control that kind of reaction? End of this day is brought, and I think I'm not the only one suffering, is some very itchy eyes, a pair of itchy eyes and a slightly runny nose, just from all of the dust that's been flying around. I know we've had the most incredible days, and in a way it is a byproduct of the weather that we've been experiencing. But I must say, I really, really hope that at some point at the end of this heat wave, apparently tomorrow is going to be even hotter, you might discover that most of the WildEarth team has been baked. I really hope that it comes with some relief in terms of rain. We definitely need it at this point. One thing I'm waiting for that I always look forward to, and we haven't really had a proper example of yet, is the build-up of the really hot days and then the break and the huge electric storms that we have in summer, with downpours of up to 30 mils in about an hour. That's the kind of storm I'm looking forward to. I feel like I haven't seen one in ages, and that's because last year's rainy season didn't really provide. I'm hoping this year's might give us a little bit of relief from this incredible temperature we've been experiencing. It's actually, I mean, it's not unseasonably hot. It's just unseasonably dry. Oh, sorry, Impala. Sorry, Impala. As I said, we don't spotlight daytime animals. It just messes with their... Oh, I nearly missed the corner. It just messes with their night vision. And it puts them at slightly more at risk of predation. And I feel like there's enough scary things out here for them to face at night. They need to be in full control of their senses. It doesn't mean that if we accidentally put a little bit of light on them, they're instantly blind for the next hour. It's a cumulative thing. So you don't sit and stare with the spotlight pointed at them. What Karula has planned for the evening. I wonder if she's got a kill stashed somewhere. She's very, very close to the position of the hyena den, and actually we did have a very brief visual of a hyena as she went on the move and disappeared out of our sight. And I wonder what her interaction with them is on a day-to-day basis, because she must know where they have a den, where their den site is. It's in the same block that she loves. Does have a kill, I hope that she's hoisted it up into a tree somewhere. Otherwise she is most definitely going to lose it to those hyena. I definitely think that she did have a kill. That round belly she was sporting was definitely not there from the images I saw from yesterday. And that panting, everything seems to indicate that she's been gorging herself on whatever it is she happened to catch. As I said, we don't really know. It could be a steenbok, could be a duiker, could even be an impala. And if it is one of the bigger kills, then I hope she stashed it up in a tree somewhere and not left it on the drainage line floor like her daughter tends to do. About Karula and her round belly, and of course touched on the subject of the drought. And Heidi, in response to my comment about the bats, you're watching all the way in Canada and you were wondering whether or not leopards can do that. In other words, can they delay breeding until the season is right? And no, I don't think they can. I don't think they have the same extent of control. They don't need to utilize it in the same way that bats do. Although you could find that a lack of resources does affect their fertility. But we'll have to just wait and see with Karula. We've got a couple of weeks more before we'll know for certain if she was successful. Well, it's been a fantastic afternoon, and I'm so glad that we got to share it with all of you, ladies and gentlemen. So a big thank you to Tebbs for his fantastic capturing of our Queen of Djuma. And we will see you all tomorrow for the Sunrise Safari. Have a wonderful day.
Welcome back, everyone. And we were just in stealth mode there, driving in the dark. So, we did end up spending a bit of time with the pack just for research purposes. And interestingly enough, all of the pups were still sleeping in the same place as we left. One or two adults did come back just to check up on them, but I mean, it was too dark to know exactly what was going on. But they were still there when we left, so there was no further movement. And even though it was too dark to film, at least we got a little bit of insight into what happens in their lives after dark. I've no doubt you've been having a good time exploring, looking for some little interesting critters with Jamie. It's always exciting after dark. because you've got chances of spotting animals that you ordinarily would not be able to see during the daytime. Well, I'm not sure if we're going to have enough time to find you anything, but there's a chance. Maybe a little chameleon. And we've got a great comment through from Lenny querying my thoughts on seeing different things at night. And she says, has anybody seen anything other than a bush baby with the spotlights? And you're right, we don't see too much after dark, but Lenny, if the only thing you've seen is a bush baby and you'd like to see a chameleon, you've joined at a good time. Perched on the branch of a buffalo thorn, we have a flap-necked chameleon, and I'm just going to try and get the lighting so that it's not too bright, and that way you may get a better view of it. There we go. Beautiful, beautiful animal, tail curled up like a little Swiss roll, and you can see its long toenails sticking out. They've got quite sharp toenails, understandably, for clambering on these trees and branches that they live in. What we need to do is find one during the day and watch them hunting, projecting their tongue, which can shoot out as long as their body, in order to catch prey like insects, crickets, flies. Wonderful. That flap-neck chameleon is about probably 4 inches in length, so nearly fully grown. But sadly, this is the only little critter we'll be able to show you tonight. Lenny, I'm glad you got to see something other than a bush baby. And what an afternoon it's been, what a day it's been. It's been great fun having you all along with us, and if you weren't, it certainly wouldn't have been nearly as much fun. So thank you for all your contributions, questions, interesting facts and knowledge that you share with us. A lot of humor was coming through today from you guys, so keep sending through those funny comments. They really do make me smile. And well done, Wium, on camera, another great job, and to Nikki and Jerry in the final control room, as well as to Jamie on the other vehicle with Tebbs for finding Karula. All in all, a great day, and it couldn't have happened without all of you guys, so thanks for your help and support. We'll see you all on the next safari.